And then where's the box?
What did you do?
I don't have nothing down here.
Where did it?
I don't know where it went.
I don't know why you did that.
Okay, there it is. Yeah, I didn't do anything. It just vanished. It disappeared. People always act like they can't hear me. Do you think that's them or me? Okay. So we're going, right? And I love that bumper music going into it.
I knew you were going to mention that.
Well, I've been waiting for it. Glenn Webster, Dixon Doe, KJ7, hello, hello, hello. And off we start to roll as we wait for everything to spool up. So people on podcasts, because they do those, well, they don't do them live, right?
Not always. Sometimes they do.
They do sometimes?
Depends on who you are.
Hmm.
I think the majority of the time it's not live.
Yeah, I would think it wouldn't be live. Because I'm just thinking in the terms people showing up a little late, you know. So, people, but then they probably care more about those big podcasts. Hey, Larry. Cheers. Cheers, Larry.
Oh, you know who else is streaming live right now?
Who? Terry?
Terry.
Yeah, Terry Carter's streaming live. They're with the entire audience. All three of them. Well, the heat. Do an update on all that. Are all the Bark Notes chapters posted yet? No. How many you got to go? About half? He's got to get them done here soon. I know. See? It's just a scan and post.
It's not a scan, I have to type it.
Okay, he has to type them all.
So it takes a lot longer than you'd think.
And about... Shout out to Trevor in the background.
Currently there's 19 chapters up.
He's checking. Okay. Anyhow, it is a dry and mild 113 degrees right now. About an 8 to 10 mile an hour wind. On the index of that, it means it's miserable. Stay in the house. Yeah, it's just been bad. We've been pretty consistently over 110 for about a month. It's just been harsh. I was talking to someone the other day, and it's been noted to me by a number of people. My wife noted, and then someone else noted. I've heard a number of people say the cacti are turning yellowish because it's just the stress of the heat, and it's the evening lows are not dropping. So, yeah, putting in more asphalt, more concrete as they continue to build, and they want less and less grass, and they just keep making it hold and release more heat in the evenings. And right now I'm pretty much starting the day off. It's about 97, 98 degrees about 4 o'clock in the morning. So on one side of it only gets about 15, 16 degrees warmer through the day, but then you have the sun counting factor, which is another thing, is people always say, well, you go back east when it's, it's 90 degrees, but we have 70% humidity. Well, then it's 95 degrees roughly. You can look at that. And guess what? When it's 113 here, it's 113 degrees with 20-30% humidity. So it's still hotter here.
There's 11 chapters left that I have to do.
11 chapters. So we will get him on that. Speaking of such, one of the things we've been going through, and we have a number of collections I've inherited, and there's a lot of unpublished, sometimes they might be published stuff by a number of different people, so I have the original manuscripts. A lot of them are short stories. I have to look, I didn't really look these up to see, but this is The Hunters Took the Bait by Tom Penfield, and they're, basically the manuscripts are what he'd submit in for the stories and stuff. And sometimes I have the original manuscripts, and there's Thomas Penfield, and I'm trying to think of who else. Xanthus Carson, Kit Carson, Oscar Branson, A number of different people, and I have a lot of these. I have a bunch of these, but one that I found was interesting. I wasn't going to go into a lot of that, but I'm trying to read it. It's got kind of a shaded cover on it. It's the American Truth Movement, impartial fulfillment of the requirements for American government. I don't know, and the name's not really very clear on it, but all the advertisement in it, and I'll show you here, so you see what the advertisement it is. It's for socialism. And it talks about National Socialism worldview. This one's always pleasant. Had enough, Whitey. Stuff's falling out. Even has a little thing you can write in on. I don't know what year this is from. It's obviously back a ways. What is this? Oh, here's a nice little pamphlet. I'm an American Nazi. So, yeah, I ran into this. I'm like, okay, this is supposed to be treasure hunting stuff. What's this Nazi propaganda stuff? And kind of odd. I haven't read through it. Have no idea what's in there. And like I said, the name's kind of messed up on the cover. I'm just like, okay, was this a pen name? I think the note on it says, paper would have been better if you had...
if you use sources other than from
the Nazi Party.
Who's it by?
It's hilarious. So...
Stephen Ryland. So I have no idea who he is, but I ended up with like I said, you're going through tons, and it's tons of stuff. There's right now I got about 6 probably in then loose boxes would make another, so about 7 5-drawer filing cabinets worth of stuff. So there's thousands and thousands of files, and you start going through trying to organize the collections. I wanted the manuscripts and certain things by author and collection, but by state and source of the different treasure stories. But I'd like to have the manuscripts and unpublished stuff separate. So I've just been doing that, and Trevor's been going through it. And I ran into that. I thought, okay, we got a little more than just treasure stories here. So I found that amusing. I don't know if anybody else finds that amusing. It's possibly even disturbing. So... And I don't think it had a year in it, did it? It didn't show it. Let me see again.
I didn't see anything to do with a year, but it was a submitted article. You never know what you're going to find or what these guys believed. So there you go. But again, as I was saying, I was talking to a number of people this week. I ended up having conversations with Jack Carlson of the Hiking Guide, talking to him, Greg Davis, always, of course, and Frank Augustine. Jack Sanfelice and I had a nice conversation for about an hour or so. Had a rather lengthy conversation, and then we texted back and forth for hours after that with Larry Hedrick. Larry's doing well, Jack's doing well, Frank's doing well, Greg's doing well. Jack Carlson is. Talked to Steve Bowser. I'm trying to think of who else. It was quite a number of people. Talked to Shoes, of course. So, and it was on a number of different subjects always when I'm looking things or I'm going through things and kind of checking up on things. So, and I there's a couple people I was going to try to get a hold of and wasn't able to. So, it was kind of interesting. Okay, now, I'm trying to catch up on all this stuff now that I was updating on that. The bark notes, the seawater around Florida's around 100 degrees. My pool's like 100 degrees. My pool's like getting in a rather warm bowl of soup. So the only thing that makes anything comfortable out here being outside is you get in the pool and then you get outside if there's a breeze. That's about it. That was what Frank and I mainly talked about, was the pool temperatures, the ridiculous pool temperatures. It wants me to snooze or pick a time or restart now on Windows. That sucks.
What?
It's telling me restart now, pick a time, or snooze.
No, we're not going to restart now. We're going to
pick a time.
Okay.
So that
That's
it doesn't
kind of funny.
automatically.
Let's interrupt things. The Walter Gassler manuscript. What about it? That for past several years try to tell Phoenix relatives we can't complain about the heat. Try me. I'll complain about the heat. What about the Gassler manuscript? Be more clear on that. Greetings, Wayne. Gil Gold Prospecting from San Antonio, Texas, where every day is a golden day. That crazy half-breed just find the mother lode. Oh, did this crazy? Stay tuned. You guys are going to freak. Okay, well, there you go. Okay, and then Mike's up there.
You see Kim Johnson.
Where's Kim?
Between
Oh, Kim, yeah. Oh, warm enough for you. What's the rendezvous? Rendezvous is the November 3rd, 4th, and 5th of this year. So I'll probably have the gates open by noon on Friday, November 3rd. So and I got a couple guest speakers lined up. It's always going to change. As I get a little closer, I can confirm and hold things. I think things will hold. It'll get more set in stone. So, but right now it's kind of putting stuff together. Let's see, everybody's talking about what? I don't know what he. How's Woody? Oh, okay. How's Woody doing? Mike can answer that. I think Woody's just fine. Mike's in his own little conversation, his own little world. It was like being water loaded with hot water. Waterboarded with hot water. Oh, I thought we were talking about Dutch Hunter manuscripts. Oh, no, these were actually treasure hunting manuscripts in general from various treasure hunt stories, and I found that in that collection. Walter Gassler has a manuscript. Someday I'll do one on that. I know some other people have done some stuff, and people talk, and I try to stay away from the stuff because it gets a little controversial. Yeah, I always wanted to know a little more about some of the facts behind the Walter Gassler manuscript. I enjoyed it. There's a lot of things that I'm not quite sure about. There's a tendency for people to say, "Oh, it's an unpublished manuscript," and they tout that one gets touted much higher than others, and I always kind of find that kind of odd. It's like, well, did this one just not play into you? I think the reason Walter Gassler's manuscript got a lot of push was the guys that were interested in Peters Mesa and Malapai in that area, and I think they became huge proponents of that was like their holy Bible. It was a big deal, and then a lot of people. It was kind of funny because I remember the time when there wasn't anyone that outside of Corbin, Bob Corbin and Tom Collenborn had met Walter Gassler. They knew him and had met with him before. They weren't like friends, but they knew him, and most everybody spoke from the perspective of he passed away. Nobody had met him. He had been making constant trips into the mountains and this stuff. And then next thing you know is people suddenly, because people die, and as people die, suddenly people go, "Oh no, I was his best friend." Yeah, you should have asked him when he was alive. So, so that kind of changed perspective and stuff, and then people have insight, and then they add to whatever's written. But the manuscript itself, I know it is what it is. It's just there's sometimes people will take in these manuscripts everything verbatim, and I would say in this case, go with Milton Rose's. Milton Rose's is far more will make you step back and rethink things and kind of see things differently. But nobody really pushes on Rainbow's End. Trying to think of a couple others that were pretty. They're out there. The Bark manuscript I think is the best one because he was making sure up front he's not giving you what he has to search for the treasure, but he's trying to tell you the stories of the superstitions. And you realize that was going to be actually a published book, and it was material. And John Spangler shared that, saying that's not the whole of it, but that was a good thing for people to start an understanding and know some of the essence of it. So we know that was being put together like that. Walter Gassler's, there's a lot of lot of mystery behind all that and the story itself. And there's a lot of collusion and there's a lot of BS in that. Well, not his story, but necessarily, but in propaganda around what happened with Walter Gessler and he died. I mean, anytime you take an elderly old man with some health problems and put him in the mountains when it's really hot and they die, it's somehow some sort of conspiracy or murder or something else. And I find that always kind of odd. It's like, yeah, that's kind of the dying thing out there happens a lot when it's really hot. And yeah, it's just so I stay away from it because my opinion generally is I believe he was heading in the mountains and he died. I've talked to a couple of the people that were up in there and kind of associated with the original story and were kind of on the scene. It's like recently I ran into another story about something that happened in Crazy Jake's camp, and I've met a number of people, and I've known people. I mean, Ron Feldman, Bob Shoes, Brian Lickman. I've known people that worked for Jake, but I also knew people different time periods that were around, and these people will tell Crazy Jake stories and then try to put themselves in it and like they knew Jake. They could have met him after he went to prison and stuff, or when he was released from prison briefly, but they'll associate themselves and tell stories. And it's funny because I've heard the stories from the guys that were actually in his camp or with him and stuff, and know where certain camps were and certain things exactly happened. And I realize they're just, I guess, trying to fit themselves into some sort of history, because that's not, I don't think that's a historical context that needs to be added to. But yeah, I find it kind of odd. I really do, because okay, there's cool stories, but then I hesitate to tell the story, because then I know one of these know-it-all know-nothings will jump in and try to make a comment, and then I gotta. One thing I will do, so everyone's clear, if you make, and this, I think people will understand, if you make a specific comment about something specifically, and it's about persons or something that is documented history, and you're doing it just to try to kind of like act like you know something no one else does, or like you're the expert, and this doesn't apply to 95% of you, trust me, it's not any single individual necessarily either, I will delete that post or whatever because I consider it harmful to the general overall history. I mean, I understand there's points where something's a possibility or plausibility, and you're putting your point of view of like, well, what if? Isn't there a possibility? That's completely different. I'm talking when someone tries to say, give specific information to change the narrative, and it's happened a lot, and it's been published like that, and since then a lot of these things have been proven to be falsehoods. And now when I catch them, I try to go out and I go to moderators and administrators of places and say, have that thread deleted or this or that, and then I show them the material. Because I'm a big proponent of, if it's just absolute crap, someone's just trying to change the narrative and put themselves on some sort of soapbox, and it's ridiculous, it just needs to be stopped. And I'm a big proponent of that. So if you're telling your own personal story, your own personal ideology, your own thoughts behind something, that's one thing, and you can put it like that. If you represent yourself completely in the wrong state, and there was a couple of those in the last month, and it doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, I look at it and go, I know completely better, and a lot of other people do, and then I discuss it with a few people and say, well, this is really stupid for that, this is actually there, and then I'll just say, you know what, I hate to edit, I hate to take away free speech, but in that case I will, because it's just, you're just trying to do harm to someone else. And you know what's funny is those people are the first people to cry out foul when someone edits or disagrees with them, but then they do that stuff, so that kind of makes it a little kind of like touchy with me. But so no, so most of you, and I would say generally 98% of you never have to worry, 99.8% of you don't have to worry, but occasionally someone will say something I'll like, that isn't true at all, and why are they doing that, just to kind of diminish this person? So because of Walter Gessler, and I knew a few people that knew quite a bit of information, and I've had the manuscript for a long, long time, and I've talked to Tom Collenborn and Bob Corbin about it, and some other people,
I kind of always kind of stayed kind of on the I have my personal opinion, and there. Why would you think KJ7 is Kim Johnson when Kim Johnson goes by Kim Johnson's name, Kim Johnson? Some guy with cryptology and figuring stuff out, you know. That's military intelligence there for you, Mike. Okay. Anyways, oh man, I sometimes wonder: are you guys just having your own little conversation there, Mike? It's like become your own little forum. Would it be more comfortable to take that hat off indoors? No. I like my hat, and the hat's like what do you call it? It's my crown. Recently A&E basically said, you know, we want you to come out, and it's still not coming out yet. It's probably there's the next few weeks have been released, and so I basically go, oh, okay, I'd love to do something with you guys and all. And there's always one thing that's important, and they always call and follow up before I leave town and get on a plane. Did you bring the hat? So the hat's an iconic thing in the viewpoint and so forth. So I like to wear the hat, especially since I worked all day. And I have what's called 113 degree hair and head, which means everything under this hat is a kind of a weird, crunchy, total rat's nest of a mess. And that happens. So I tried to kind of clean it up a little. And that's funny, too, because people always say, when you do your videos or when you do live, when you do stuff, you know, blah, 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 you look glassy eyes. Okay, I worked all day. Sorry. So some of us have jobs. Let's see. The hat is Wayne's signature. There you go. Kind of that. But I thought about, and you know, I was thinking about the other day, I'm asking Trevor, hey, can we plug the headphones in? And I can listen to myself and all. And I was going to talk to him as saying, you know, because a lot of guys do the podcast and stuff and they wear the headphones and it looks really professional. And I thought, man, that might look cool, kind of give it a different perspective. So I thought about that. Of course, I wouldn't be able to wear the hat. So I was going to tell Trevor, but then I realized anything I would hear that you're hearing would be the delay. And hearing the delay, because I see the delay and it's distracting. But hearing the delay, yes, this would just be a complete, utter mess. Trying to listen to and hear myself and all that. So in that case, I don't know, you know, that's funny too, because I don't know what they do when people, I guess they just call in through a line and that's live line. So, but, you know, yeah, reading stuff from a script like this is different too, because I know there's a lot of delay in this stuff. Okay, so Joe Cocker, you can keep your hat on. There you go. What? Okay, I have pictures from the Super I should post on Facebook or send it to your website. Okay. I have orb pictures. Never mind. Okay, orb. Well, no, okay, orb pictures. You can always email them through the website. Trevor can pick them up there, right? You can get the attachments through the website if we deem possible and all that stuff. So KJ7 has orb stuff. I'm trying to catch up with what everybody's saying. Mike just took off on a tangent. I don't know, these guys. Kim, I think Mike has been insane. And I know Mike's not been out drinking. He better not have been. He was out. Well, actually, you know what? Mike was in Sedona. I sent him up to Sedona to work today. He got up by the flying saucer people. He hit a vortex, bounced off a, what do you call them? Portal or something, and now Mike's all messed up in the head. So there you go. Disrespectful to wear a hat indoors. Huh. I'll wear one in church. I'll wear one in the bank. I'll wear one in the bathtub. Actually, I take my hat off for several things, and I don't take baths. Frank takes baths. I take it off in the shower, though. I posted a picture of some on Facebook, okay. It's not poor Mike. He bounced through a portal or whatever, and now he's come back, and
the lizard people got him up in Sedona, completely messed up. So I'm not even remembering where we were, but it was kind of someone bringing about the Walter Gassler thing. So I thought about doing the no, you weren't at Bradshaw Ranch this time, but yeah, good try. The white supremacist Bigfoot. It was an albino Bigfoot. I don't know if albinos are kind of following that. Okay, thank you for the stories. You're awesome. They're awesome. Yeah, that's great. See, there's someone there who's like thinks I'm awesome. Yeah, quit listening to the rest of the bullshitters. Sound like something a wife would say. I don't know what. I don't know. I can't follow you guys, so I'll just talk. Anyhow, so the Walter Gassler stuff I kind of reserve. And I think you would want to do it piecemeal in little bits and pieces. We wouldn't even have it be 2-3 hours of going back and forth, and then people are going to be agreeing and trying to chime in, and there's just so much stuff and saying, well, what about this? What about that? And those different things. So since I knew a number of people and their stories, and like I was referencing, there was a couple crazy Jake stories that people started retelling out there in the public, and I was like, okay, that's not what I heard from the guys that were together that used to be with Crazy Jake that told me this story. It's a bit different, and they were explaining, and the reason one of the stories was told to me was they were telling me the place and the spot and everything, and I was like, oh, and they were saying, well, and I'm not going to get into it. Maybe I'll do that story sometime. But it was kind of funny because I knew the area, and we were trying to pinpoint certain things, and he was saying, under those rocks over here behind that, that's where and I was like, oh. And then I saw this other story, and I'm like, well, he obviously knows he's blowing smoke because somebody that was there has a whole different story. Now, I think his name is Ladislau Sanchez Guerrero or something like. Nobody was around when he shot the guy. But yeah, so there you go. Steve Wiggin, I got a hat just like that one. I don't use it anymore. There you go. Okay, can gold be tested to determine the general area it comes from? It can be compared, and yes and no. You can take, if it's gold that's been smelted down, I think it would be more difficult, but they can analyze. It can be tested to see where it might have come from, but it has to have a known source, which is problematic. So they can say, this gold appears to come from this general area here, but they have to have samples from that general area here to test it and compare it to. So the database is always going to be limited to known mines and known samples that they have on hand. You can compare different stuff, but it's comparative. So for someone to say, oh, this, like in Oak Island, when they say, oh, well, this lead came from these mines in France, it's because they have that stuff on file of those mines and that lead and so forth, so it's able to reference it and say, hey, this is very similar to this from here. So you have to have that. I don't think the superstitions, they never finished, remember always, they never finished the mineral surveys, mineral studies of the superstitions. That never was completed. And I hope to have someone at the rendezvous who will talk about that a bit. Who's a geologist with a real degree. Not they pretend are geologists or archaeologists or historians, but one of those ones that actually went to school for it. And have him talk about that a little, because I always thought, wow, it seems kind of bare bones and they missed a lot of stuff. And that was, he gives a little bit of a discussion on that. It's very cool, because you realize, oh, that's one of the problems with the superstitions, was creates the perceptions of there's no gold, or there's a lack of gold, or certain things, and he's able to explain a lot of why those perceptions are what they are. Okay, now let's see. It said Julia Thomas was from Louisiana. They're showing which city or plantation. I don't know if it says plantation. I'd have to go back and look. Thomas Glover would be a good source. Two other people, Larry Hanna and Gary Cundiff, did a lot of deep delving because they knew where Emil Thomas was in prison, and they did a lot of good research on that stuff. So they would probably, I don't know if they knew, they might have known. And I'm getting a feeling that they had a good idea and narrowed it in, because their name was Corn or Calm, Khln, And I won't get into a lot of that history with that because I can't confirm it right off the bat. I know there was a lot of that with Julia, and that somehow, even though it's post Civil War, obviously, but she was a free woman. But I think there's a bit more behind it. But of course, back in those days, they didn't. Definitely with someone who was. They say she was an octoroon too, which was a little different because that means she's 1/8, which means she would be 2 generations descended, which meant she was probably very light skinned. I mean, which is one of the things that's problematic when they. I know Brownie Holmes at one point says she was dark as the night. And it's like, it's doubtful at that point. But, you know, hey, bud, we'll give you some leeway. But I think they kind of know, and it's definitely where the general areas. I don't think they have a birth certificate on file. But she was born on a plantation in a house. And just the fact that she spoke German, she had learned German fluently and all that, and she's 1/8 black, tells me that she probably grew up. They say her mother was a slave in the household, but that seems kind of odd from that perspective, that she was educated, spoke German, and, you know, but like I said, it's post-Civil War, so who knows. It's a southern thing. It's all the reason military men wear their headgear for entering a building. Well, I don't follow that. Flushed a vortex this morning. I flushed a vortex. That's good. Was it painful? Ed Riley, note, fits the 24K. It's done. Okay, whatever. Has anyone done electronic voice phenomena readings around the superstitions? What's EVPs? Well, EVP is you just take a digital recorder, or you can take an analog recorder, and you go out there, and then you just basically go and you turn it up and you pump it up really, really high. So it's ridiculous that you hear the amount of white noise and in the background because of the microphone, and you know, then you try to think you hear things. We had a thing we wanted to do, and this is interesting actually, and I talked about it before. We had a paranormal group, and I was trying to get one to associate with us, one that does videos and does podcasts and stuff. And I said, you guys bring your gear. It's the same gear I use, except you call it ghost hunting gear. I call it electrical meters and digital recorders for doing these things. So we'll bring our gear, same gear, and we will go out and we will go do this together. And we will film and whatnot. You guys can film and do your thing. And then what we'll do at a point, because we can hear each other and it'll all cross over, but we'll swap cards. And then you can hear what we picked up, we can hear what you picked up, but it should be the same, and we'll see what we find and all. And believe it or not, when you put the control into the situation and all that kind of stuff, they start saying, no, we can't do that. Oh, really? So, well, okay, let me see your meter. I'll show you my meter because it's no different than your meter unless you monkeyed with the meter. And, well, we don't do that. And it's like, okay, because I understand the science, but, yeah, I don't have a problem. Let's go see if we get comparative results, which is what you would think, right? Because if we have 2 digital recorders a very short distance and you can hear us talking in the background on both, there shouldn't be a voice on one and not on the other. Let's see how this goes. And I've talked in depth about white noise, and if you have a baby monitor or something in one room, you will hear music or you can hear voices in the background. It's not there. It's your brain challenging that. So, and I also, unfortunately for everyone here, worked with crews and people that worked on Ghost Hunters International, Paranormal State, Haunting, Ghost Adventure. I worked with people that worked on those programs. They had all kinds of fun stories to sit around at lunchtime and talk and tell about these sort of things. And I was a big fan of those shows, not a believer, but a big fan of watching the shows and their efforts until they kind of spoiled everything for me. And then I went, oh, great. And then it just became, okay, it's kind of interesting and fun to watch because of the ridiculousness of it. So I'm not going to blow anybody's bubble too much, but yes, we always, and think about it, when we're out doing filming, we bring digital recorders. They just have digital recorders. If you look at sometimes their digital recorder stuff, they're the same thing we're using when we're doing stuff. So it's the same stuff. You would pick up the same thing. they try to fancify or do things like the whole radio frequency thing, which skips, and it's not always, they sit there for 4.5 hours and then they give you just a few seconds of some things. Look at this. And, you're expected to believe they sat there for 2 to 4 hours and got that. Okay. Anyways, let's not go down that path, that kind of very strange thing. There needs to be other minerals or the pure. Okay, Mike's on his little tangent. Cool, thanks, Wayne. No problem. Okay, I don't even know what you're thanking me of. Can gold be? Yeah, okay, that was the gold testing thing. Tasting. Bleh. Okay, interesting eugenics and National Socialism episode today. I'm here for the gold. Well, that was just. Hey, I found the manuscript for the article and the story in the treasure hunt files. That's why I brought it up. It seemed like this total wild, crazy, out of left field thing, and I thought it was worth sharing. So, forgive me not. All right. So, is there a way I can send you a picture? We have a website, so the website has an email. You can send that to there. And that's the best way to get it to you. You can also send it through Messenger. You can send it through Messenger to Legend of the Superstition Mountains on Facebook. Send it to Dutch on a Rendezvous as well. There's a whole bunch of different ways to get things to us. So there you go. William Tyre. I am a war vet. I love the military thing. But that's a stateside thing with the hat. Okay. I don't understand again. I don't know. Okay. Some cowboys take them off. I see people that wear big belt buckles and do this and that and everything, and they wear their Wranglers and crap, and then they put their hat down and they don't flip it over. I know of hat etiquette. Don't put your hat on a bed. Always turn your hat over so the luck don't come out, except after someone's died. Then you take their hat and you put it up on the thing, proper way down, because they no longer need any luck. There's certain things of that. The rest of it, I think, is bullshit. I know a couple of ghost investigators. I'll try to drop a couple bees in a bonnet or two. Yeah, we've tried that. We tried it when the Bob Ward cabin, before they completely rolled it over, and when they were working out there. We kept trying for a few years to get someone to do it. Hey, they're disrupting things. They're doing this. They're doing that. This is what you guys want. And as soon as you put their feet to the fire, we weren't trying to make them, to call them out as fakes. We were saying, let's do something interesting where you can film and do your video, we can do ours comparatively, and see if that pushes things up. Since we were going to bring Salvador Delgadillo, we're going to try to bring people that had been there, that knew people that had died out there, and tried to see if we could work with them. And it wasn't about proving there's a ghost. It was a really cool idea, and every single group passed on it. They invited me to do their podcast, which I thought, well, that's stupid, because I'm going to get slammed over there when I tell them, yeah, well, you guys look funny when you do your stuff. Okay. I don't know. We're talking about hat etiquette, too, and bees and bonnets now. When are you going to sing us a song? One day we'll have to do it. One of the problems is I go through the whole day, and it's really hot, and I'm really tired and stuff, and I think about it all week of like, I got to pick up a song and sit down, and when we roll in, Trevor's going to have the bumper music going in and the whole introduction thing, and it's going to be really cool. And it's going to open with me playing the guitar sitting there and say, oh, welcome. Maybe we'll have a crackling fire. But yeah, I thought, man, that would be, okay, what song? And then I think of a few ideas and a couple ideas. And this week there was one I had a song called The Dust That I've Cleansed From My Eye, which is a pretty cool little piece. And I thought that would be kind of neat. And then it just kind of dies out as the week gets there. You get tired. You're outside and everything else. So that's kind of what happens is it comes time to do this and I'm completely distracted. All else, hell breaks loose. And yes, I sit down and go like, oh yeah, I should have been sitting in the other room for a half hour kind of deciding what I wanted to do there. Hope you're staying cool. No, not happening. I am directly under the vent, though. So, we had the bee in the bonnet and all that. It's weird when this thing sometimes moves fast, sometimes it doesn't. Wayne, you didn't see the photo of Ore in Quartz I posted on Facebook. I don't know who KJ7 is. So, did you post it under KJ7? Hope you were staying cool, Wayne. That was real. Batman,
there's the person that wants me to play music more than anyone, the Batman. So I might have, and what I want to do is I want to put on a Batman cowl and play the Batman theme. That's what I should do, Trevor, because the real Batman always wants me to do that. So that would actually be fun. And then I'd probably end up learning the Munsters tune in this theme instead. Okay, Mike's still talking to people randomly.
He was talking to Bobby.
Yeah,
Bunzel.
Bunzel.
When are you going to sing? So Mike said, I don't think you want that dogs and cats living together mass hysteria. That's what you sound like singing, I guess.
God, where can I send Mike? Where can I send Mike? I gotta find a really cool piece of hell, real estate hell to send Mike. Jeez. Actually, I could surprisingly do well. Mike was there, and I sang with. I joined in and sang with. Jeez. Dave. Anyways, but
And then Frank joined in.
well, Frank was like a dying cat, but Mike and the rest of them were kicking in. If we play, sit back and do, whether it's duets or we play a song and sing, because I did a little Hotel California there one year too. But it's best the non-singers don't join in because it does not support us in any way. Okay, there. In your video of the Jones-Piper feud, you mentioned Clayworth climbed to Gatewood. Is that the top? No, he actually, I think, rode a helicopter up there looking to save the guy that was stranded up there. The one guy fell, and they were being shot at. I have that somewhere. Trevor's never done that. We're gonna have to find that where he's talking to me. Me and Clay were sitting around one afternoon, and he went on for probably 15-20 minutes and talked about that story. Could have been shorter. And they were shooting at him, but when they got the helicopter, Clay went up in the helicopter because he'd seen where the guy had fallen, and he went up, and they were trying to find the guy that was still up on Weaver's Needle and pick him off of Weaver's Needle because someone was shooting in the area. And that's all I know, because Clay heard, I think he was in the mountains and heard what happened and all. Anyways, I have Clay on an interview, so I'm not going to say too much, because Clay can just tell the story himself, because he's taped doing it. Okay. And okay, I don't know, I was born Piper feud. Okay, we did that. I'm glad you're wearing a Coors shirt instead of a Bud Light. I don't have any Bud Light shirts. I don't like Bud Light. It tastes like bad potato chips. I'd rather not drink at all or not have a beer at all. So generally Heineken, Coors Light. I loved Lowenbrow, but I never liked Bud Light. Never in my whole life. There was just certain beers I thought had a bad aftertaste, and I found a few other people say that. I guess must be something certain about it with some people, because I started to describe it, and the person said it's like bad potato chips, and I said exactly. Once you're done, it's just like rotten, nasty. See, when I was working at Shuck and Sons, whenever I bought a pitcher, all the guys would buy Bud Light, except when it was me, and then I'd buy Coors Light usually. Or Budweiser. I would buy them Budweiser too, but they always wanted Bud Light. Spent all my life in the South. Where, okay, now these guys are still talking. Get his phone number, Mike. You guys can go out for dinner. I'm glad that you're wearing a Coors Light shirt. Okay, Florida. Okay. Sounds like the paranormal crowd lacks logical research and sharing results with people who have different points of view, such as yourself. I actually absolutely 110% believe. It's always kind of funny of like, I'm not asking you to prove anything to me. I just want to see how you do it. I do it. I'm not trying to expose you. I just think that would be interesting contrasts. I actually said the same thing with Mysteries with Charlie LeSueur. I said, it'd be fun if you came out to do your thing and in the background did a little bit of whatever you do. But you guys would film us filming while we're out doing something. Now, we were going to have to be particular because we go pretty rugged at times, so we'd have to make it something particular they could have been able to set up and do. Unlike we think we're like mules or bighorn sheep running through the desert. So it would have to be a complete... But I've always thought that was a cool idea. You do your thing, we do our thing. Let's just both put it out there, and it kind of supportive of each other. I don't consider it
a competition. I consider it of everybody kind of working to the same thing to promote history and be as honest as possible. And I think it's cool to cross over and do that stuff. And I don't have a problem with it as long as we're all being honest. But that's usually the key thing is let's just all be honest and do this straightforward and straight up. And people kind of get shied away from that. So, like I said, I the only thing I got out of all of it is that people would invite me to do their podcast and wanted me to do stuff, and I'm like, I don't really have a ton of ghost stories, and I'm way too analytic for stuff, and it's not going to be a real popular thing. I don't think, there's a lot of trolls, and I'm not going to say people are always just trolls. People that watch or listen to things, but they don't really believe in it. And they're not necessarily trolls, they just like to hear that other side because they want to have an open mind, but they just know it's BS. But they do listen to the other side quietly. And I listen to a lot of podcasts of stuff and read books on stuff that I think is absolute garbage, but I read it just so I'm educated on why is it maybe they think that way. But the other side doesn't do the same thing because the moment they find something they don't like, it's kind of a weird thing. They'll just cast it aside, and it's like, no, we can't do that. It's not allowed. That's just, you're a heretic. It's like, how can you not believe or explain this? Well, mine's pretty funny, and it can imagine and do some pretty crazy stuff. By the way, there's an excellent book. It's it's up on the bookshelf, and I can't remember it. The Utah Basin UFO display. Is that what it is? But anyways, it's about around the area about Skinwalker Ranch. It's not a Skinwalker Ranch book, but it was done by someone who actually is very well educated, and he was looking at it. He's not a believer in UFOs. It was a very cool book, and I told Mike McChesney there to get that book, which he probably hasn't. But it was a very interesting book because he was looking at it from the scientific purposes of saying he didn't really believe that there could possibly be nuts and bolts craft that have come from another planet. He also said, he believes it's all more earthbound, and it always has been. And this guy wrote the original book. I think it was published in the 70s. So he's had these opinions since the 60s and 70s on this stuff. He also said, biologically, why do we always imagine that everything that comes from other planets is somehow replicated of us? Different, but it looks like us. Why isn't it a slug with little stick arms? Why is it not something completely universally different? Because everything that happened to us and our evolution and everything that evolved around us would be so different. And he pointed the ultimate thing is they could live in a poisonous gas environment because they would be replicated so completely different. But the problem is they all seem to adapt and be able to just kind of do just fine here on the earth. So it was a very interesting book. So okay, let's get back up here. Can't get many. I don't even know where I'm at. Okay. Born out, see Dave. Why continue to appear on the history? Why do you continue to? Because they asked me. They asked me and give me money. What the? I thought that's kind of
why
obvious.
Didn't you continue?
Oh no, I just worked for the History Channel. Well, I work for A&E. That was purely their decision of whatever. I think going back, they regret that 100% that they did not continue with us. Our ratings, when you consider the overnight and everything else pooled, we were probably because they always do an episode and then they do like a repeat later that night. We were probably getting around 2 million every run of every new show, and then everything else. That thing really piled up. It did well overseas as well. I think they were hesitant. They wanted to go back to the World War II stuff. They had a lot of changes in the staffing at History Channel and some at A&E, and I think it's something they've regretted because they've even said in a meeting, we need a producer or someone to come up and bring us something like Legends of the Superstition Mountains. And you're like, well, you had that. You had that show. So that was them making a change because they canceled everything at that point. I think Oak Island might have been one of the few shows that they salvaged because it was doing about 3.5 to 4 million at the time. So I think that would have been utterly stupid to that. But since then, I've worked with the History and A&E because I was under contract to A&E a number of times. And they always bring me in the room, and they always tell me they love me, and they love what we do here. They like the lives, they like the YouTube videos, they like everything we do. And they're totally really super nice. And then they fly me out and they put me in a hotel and they treat me really good and feed me and then let me sit down for an hour or so and answer questions, and then they let me go back and sit around a hotel and hang out at the beach. Come on. So I still work with them. I'm offered opportunities to do other things, and a lot of times I turn them down. Jacob had gold mine, the story. Guys, would you tell no one where he got the gold?
It's a song,
Oh, it's a song?
I think.
You think? If some died, okay. If you can't get any movement from the people I know, Tim Page, I would be like, totally greenhorn, but give it a shot. Thank you for posting the Clay Worst videos. I like posting Clay stuff, yeah. Clay and Tom and all those guys, I love that stuff. Good for you, Wade. Whatever. Bob Corbin climbed Weaver's Needle, Celeste Jones' friend. Can't remember his name. Got to the top. Well, okay, that's Mike. I've heard all that before. Thoughts on advancing technology and ground penetrating radar? If there's something that would really expose the ground and all that, and if they do have it, which they possibly could, one of the things is the mineralization. I mean, it wouldn't. If the government thought there was uranium or something under the Superstitions, they would change the wilderness area and definitely kind of change the boundaries so they could get to the uranium. So the technology is not infallible. People that use metal detectors, ground penetrating radar and stuff, the people that utilize it the most, you find a lot of grounded, no pun intended, people that I've actually expressed ideas and understanding, because I want to always understand the electrical impulses and the technology and stuff better, and things that you could possibly do with it in the future. It's really funny because those people are very plain and simple as it can lie to you. I've learned so much about Frank, about metal detection and false signals and things and hot rocks and all the people that he knows as well and stuff. So I've learned a ton and I've experienced it myself. And I like to poke with it and learn more and more and more. So the technology that people think is there of just taking a little stick and running around and saying, well, there's 14 gold bars exactly there. Yeah, that's absolute nonsense. So, and you notice that we never see that person dig those gold bars up. Somehow, that just works out that way. But we love those guys, and those guys are awesome. So, can't remember the name, got to the top, came okay. That was Mike again. Goddamn Mike. Wayne, do you believe Waltz had a partner wiser? And do you believe Walker's story about... That's an interesting one, and I talked briefly about it today. Don't sing it, messed it up. Okay. Hey Trevor, Sunsets, we'll be able to see all that. Sunsets will be out this fall. Trevor's waiting on me right now. So it's been it's been a disagreement, and I'll get back to the other thing here real quick. It's been a disagreement over, I think it needs to sound one way and he thinks it needs to sound another. And as in the capacity as an executive producer and producing the music and listening to the audio, the one area I would say that I will always try to bully him on is the audio, because of what I think and how it should be. And it's not touting the music or anything by any ways, is it? It's about background noise and certain things. And he's giving me a stink eye right now because of it. But that's where I'll kind of get my ground and say, you know what? It's not it's not sink or fail here at all. It's just that shit is how I feel. And he doesn't like that attitude when it comes out of me. And it was purely of saying, you got something awesome and you're 92% awesome, and I hate the 8% bull crap that's happening right here. You need to fix that and do this, and then we just butt heads. But we did get a lot done. We're very close, aren't we?
Still a lot of music to make.
I can knock it out like that once you start listening, okay? Anyhow, so we got a lot done, and everything's kind of rolling, and that should be out this fall. The Rendezvous, we should have copies, I would think. All right, wouldn't you agree, Trevor? We should have copies at the Rendezvous.
Yeah.
Okay, Weiser and the Walker and all this other stuff. That is an interesting story, because one of the things that completely contradicts other stories. But why would the guy make that up? It was down by Coolidge, where supposedly Weiser. I've always looked at the story and I thought that story was possibly crap and didn't want to believe a word of it. And I always thought that story was very suspect. But the more I've done it and I've kind of went over things and kind of like looked at it, I'm not going to say the exact story and how it's all told by Julia Reinhardt and what Waltz would have told them and what Weiser would have said and the names and everything correct. I find that possibly more accurate version of the story than some of the other versions that don't have Weiser in it. And it was interesting to me because you have to cut so much of the Walt story completely back, strip it down, and change the entire narrative and everything in the story. And when you do, you end up with a Dick Holmes story in the end. When you end up with a Dick Holmes story, you end up with a person that told absolute lies. Jacob Waltz was not a naturalized citizen. Yes, he was. And all the things that the Holmes family said in newspapers and his physical statements, they were in the newspapers. You can't let's pretend it didn't happen. He wrote a manuscript. You could say, oh, a ghostwriter added that in. But they did newspaper articles all the time. It was Dick Holmes and Brownie Holmes and Ida Holmes. And when you take those things and statements and things they said that were absolutely untrue, you have to look at it and say, they lied. And someone said, well, why would they lie? And I said, it's not why would they lie. It was they lied. Why would you say completely false statements that had nothing to do with directions of the mind or anything else? Because if you're doing it to cover stuff up, then just don't talk to people. You don't need all that publicity or anything, right? So that's why I started moving over to that and looking at it more and more and more. Of course, we're so pulled far out from that. It's tough. Okay, so then Mike talked a lot, saying a lot of things, and then Mike Stevens, I sent the pic. Okay, please be looking for it. Okay, Trevor, look for that pic. Arizona A&E has a weird track with not renewing. They do stuff that's odd, but I'm going to say they pay me, and they pay me well, and they always don't have a problem. And the fact that they came in and what they've done by me, I can say it's not always been perfect, but they've treated me well. Prometheus did very well, and now I'm working with the in-house A&E people. It's the production companies in-house. It's not outside production companies. I will always do something when they ask, and if they watch this now, I need to be much nicer. I've not always been generally nice about this, but I will say this. I always have to say thank you. Like even to Go-Go Lucky and everyone, Julie Arbach and the people there and Tina, I always have to say thank you and have to realize you guys took a chance and it came through and we did really great numbers. And if it didn't continue, so what? The big point is you guys rolled the dice on me and I pulled in the numbers and it's turned out very well. And I'm still doing television for Discovery, Travel Channel, Science Channel, Nat Geo, History, A&E. I'm still doing this stuff, 8-9 years later, people are calling me up. And I get a dozen phone calls a year. I only do one thing maybe a year. It's not about oversaturation. I want to always make sure it's representing kind of where I'm coming from and what I'm talking about. So I don't want to go do something silly and inane. I know sometimes it comes off silly because of editing. I just don't want to right off the bat go, well, this is going to be stupid. Might as well make the most of it, unless they're going to pay me. If you're going to pay me like $40,000, $50,000 just to show up for a week and do something inane and ridiculous, I don't mind being one of the Three Stooges because, hey, it's just for a week. And I think everyone out here would say, for a week's work, that kind of money, no, I'm in. So, yeah, it's not about it. That reputation will repair from on that because all you got to do is show people the check and say, hey, whatever. Okay. He did. Okay, Mike's still talking to somebody. Weird track record. I think they were afraid of Frank's mouth. Nah, they weren't afraid of Frank's mouth. Wayne has heard about Bill being talked about in DCH. Oh, this Bill. Okay, that was a guy named Bill. Sounds like they want to explore parts of the wilderness, the south of this flood parts of the wilderness, the south of the Salt River. God, they might, I don't know. If they want to hold more water and stuff, that's not so much of a problem. I mean, come on. There's very limited, I don't know if Tortilla Flat's going to be underwater. Or not Tortilla Flat, Tortilla. Lithium's hot these days. We're still talking to Mike. Exactly, Wayne. The Wiser thing is problematic. They're all problematic, but more. Let's put it this way: which one's more problematic, the Dick Holmes story or the Wiser story? The Dick Holmes story, there's absolute apparent lies, and that's what always kills me is when someone says, "Well, I'll go with the Holmes stuff," but like a huge percentage of that stuff, just reading it, is just absolutely fictitious bullshit that they kept changing and altering because they started telling that story before 1900. And as you watch the newspaper articles, the stories are altered by the Holmes family as they learn information. One thing they couldn't get through their heads is Waltz was a citizen, even though they kept being told that. So that's even more problematic, is when you keep lying and we know it's just a lie. It's like, okay, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't think Dick Holmes, just to be honest, so people understand this, I don't think Dick Holmes ever met Jacob Waltz. I think he got everything he got probably from Julia Albert Schaefer or someone like that, and he got stuff mixed around, and that was his story. I don't think he ever sat with Waltz or spent any time with Jacob Waltz. That was Reinhard Petrash's statement, that Dick Holmes never met Waltz as far as he knew. You would think Reinhardt would know, and we know Reinhardt knew Waltz and had spent time with him. So I would kind of sit there with all that and just say, you know what, I'll hang my hat on that one there. No, that's the thing, is I was never a big Holmes fan. You got to also remember, you didn't hear much about the Holmes stuff till sometime in the late 70s, early 80s. The Holmes stuff was kind of distant. And I think it's because a lot of people just outside of it, unless they were fans of brownies or something particular in the Holmes thing, nobody really, there wasn't two camps. Someone once told me, there was two camps. There was the Thomas Petrash camp and there was the Holmes camp. And when I came through Dutch hunting, there weren't that many Holmes people. Once Thomas Glover did the Holmes manuscript and that stuff came out more, there was more Holmes people. Before that, there wasn't a lot. That's like the Gassler people. The manuscript sat there and was sitting there in the museum, and you could pick up a copy, and it was years and years and years. And then forums and the internet was born, and people started hearing about it. And then, whose book was it? It was, both Corbin's and Thomas Glover's books put it out there more. But again, we're just a small audience, remember. You're not talking like 100,000 people, 500,000 people knowing this shit. Understand, the television show I'm in, Legend of the Superstition Mountains and that stuff, more exposure. There's more views on this YouTube channel than probably books sold about the Lost Dutchman mine in the last 50 or 60 years. So put that in perspective, that I disseminate far more information to far more people doing this YouTube thing, which seems ridiculous, than any amount of books sold. And I've been counting for how many books sold by different authors and stuff, and I'm not going to do those numbers. I'm not going to do a numbers thing. But I was thought I'm kind of right on the numbers of what these guys sell, and I found out I actually was giving them sometimes more credit than I needed to, and sometimes shorting them. But I wanted to kind of statistically look at it as, I would say overall, you're lucky if 200,000 to 300,000 books have been sold in the last, 30 years, okay? In the last 15 years with YouTube and cable, you're looking at, just for me alone, now I'm not going to talk about mysteries or anybody else's stuff, but programs I've actually physically appeared on, you're looking at somewhere around 25 to 30 million viewers. So that's a huge difference. It's just the context of the modern age, which I think we'll all agree. But information is done differently. People will live off of, say, well, I looked it up in Wikipedia and this must be the truth. People don't pick up books, which we promote here. We're always telling you, pick up this book, listen to this book, read this book, do this. I try to disseminate that information because I think it's healthier for people to make up their mind with better information. But again, in the end, it's a whole different world, the way we're cycling and stuff. Some people believe, and I don't believe it's going to do that, say it's going to come all the way back around. I believe having the capacity and the stuff that Trevor and I are trying to do and post things online and the internet and sharing material is actually the important thing, the way to do in the future. Sharing the bark nodes, the video footage, digitizing, sharing photographs. Eventually we'll get to audio stuff. You'll have Fridays where it's just audio. We'll put up a picture and you'll hear an audio interview with someone.
all that stuff and sharing it so the masses get it for free, I think that's the way you do it. I think putting together a book that might be lucky if it sells 2,000 copies or 3,000 copies and think you're blowing the lid off the conspiracy, I think that's absolutely just ridiculous. And you know what? Hey, more power to you if you want to do something, but you're not even hitting. If you sold 2,000 books, what is that? Even just compared to our subscribers on YouTube. I mean, what is it? 10%? 10-15% probably of the people that we reach through YouTube is what you're reaching through the book. So it's just not having an impact. It's hitting the people that are hardcore into it, and that's it. And they're not going to move. That we don't move the needle. I know that for a fact. I can tell all of you, watch this and do this and let's get it together. It's not going to move the needle because we're such a small kind of niche group. It's general America who's not listening to me for the most part, or you. I mean, come on, what is that? 350 million people in the United States? And it's impressive to say, yeah, but you don't have to give me an exact number. But the point is, I can say, it was on a program that did 2 million people in one single episode, one night. 2 million to 350 million.
332.
That's just not really moving much of a needle there. It's just, everything's so spread out and everything. Okay, let's get back on while I'm ranting and raving. I'm 37. Oh, I thought that was McChesney. It's someone different. I was saying, McChesney ain't no 37. If he's 37, he looks bad for 37. Enjoy seeing footage, Arizona. Okay, yeah, thank you very, 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 very much. We have heard about the bill. Okay, I already been through that. Lithium. See, it's always hard. I wish there was a way you could do this with a mouse and then highlight and know where you were, because then I gotta. Man gave directions to a woman, she got lost. Yep. Or you could buy. That was actually probably the funniest thing anybody said here all day. But it is obvious where the Walker Weedon map leads. Okay, there's that. Then cool stuff I'm in. Cool there. I'm curious about the 369 stuff mentioned a couple weeks ago, why it's so interesting. Just type in Tesla 36 and 9 and you will start to see it. There's a little BS about it, but there's a lot of really crazy stuff with 369 and all that stuff. And the people that have kind of looked into it, I'm not a huge 369 believer, but there is something odd about the mathematics of doing that there. So 369. Maybe we'll do it 369 Chasing Legends sometime. So we'll do it and break it down, because it's a lot of little crazy stuff with 3, 6, and 9. Trevor, tell Wayne to monetize his channel. Isn't this monetized? Don't you steal all the money from me? All those millions of dollars? I don't need frickin' the money from this channel and stuff. In fact, some of the guest lectures I've done around the state of Arizona, when I've done lectures and stuff, if you do happen to catch me at one of these communities and I come in and do a lecture, they offer sometimes a pretty decent size of money. Sometimes I actually defer that to the Dons or a children's hospital or something like that. So just so people know, it's not about greed in that case or whatever. If it becomes a hassle to do certain things, I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's just do something charitable. I'm curious about the 369. Okay, whatever happened to Emery Taylor? He was back east for a while. I know that. Greg Davis has talked to him. He was doing something. I can't remember what it exactly he was doing. He was into something else and doing something. Hands down, you tell us we're doing the right thing for the legend. Thank you. Should pay you like History Channel. No, they're not going to pay us. There's not that kind of money here. Dick Holmes never knew Waltz was a citizen. There's Bowman. We were just talking about you earlier today because someone told me Bowman retired and Bowman's gone permanently and Bowman's done. And I said, let's see if he shows up and pops up in the podcast. And here we're almost wrapping up and almost finished, and you popped up. So, dude, that was awesome, because we just talked about it today as they informed me. And I said, you're just a never say die kind of guy. You're going to be typing with 2 fingers on your way out, posting something, and hitting enter as you're finding it. On your tombstone, it should just say, hit enter for me, please. So the last thing goes out. And that's meant, dude, with due respect, too. So it's a joke. It's funny. But it's also, I hope you're laughing. All right. Future guests. Bruce Faber and Ryan Graves? I don't even know who those people are. Do you? Nope, that's a kind of a mouthful of kind of consonants there in those names. Is it Ryan's Graves? Ryan Graves? Ryan Graves, I don't know. You'd have to put something together so we could reach out to them or give us some clue what it is, because we're going to be going here in a minute. But send an email to the website. And Trevor's looking, because that's what, that generation does. UFO hearing. Thanks for doing the stream. Oh, that's the guys that do UFO hearing stuff.
Statements from UFOs.
You know what's funny? I wanted to do. We talked about doing guess. The only thing I've ever kind of done is I talked to Shoes. I talked to Robert May. We did something with Woody. Had done stuff with Frank a little bit, where me and Frank are sitting there talking, and we did have Dalil a couple times on and stuff. But I always thought, well, if we're doing podcast properly, maybe we should bring some guys in and let them kind of do their rant, and I ask questions. And we talked about this. Trevor's not always in favor because, one, the phone hookups and doing stuff that if you're not just in person doing it, I think it always looks like crap and doesn't translate, and then you have audio problems and stuff like that. And I agree with Trevor on that. I like to kind of, even though I will talk this way when the microphone's over here, I will say it's much nicer to have it in a controlled environment where we can say, hey, you know what, let's do that back over real quick, because we want to make sure we have something good that everybody can hear. And it's more comfortable. It's much easier than when the anxiety of saying, oh, we're live. I understand this. It's like every time we do this, I have to realize, oh, these people are going to be watching. There's going to be all these people. Like the first time I was live, I was like, wow, why is there 500, 1,000 people here? And I didn't quite understand of like the impact all this can have of that. We all will just jump in and check something out. And right now, we did pretty good today, but what's obviously even more hilarious is I hope we didn't steal people from Terry Carter, because I'd feel really horrible. So Terry's such a good guy. He's my buddy. It's 5 o'clock. Time, shotgun, Coors, eat pizza. Your Wayne Tuttle, we're not. I don't do that on Fridays, do I? No, I don't, because it's Legends Live. You made my weekend. Thank you. Have a great night, Tuttles. Okay. All right. So everybody have a great one. I was glad to. What? Terry already wrapped up. But yeah, but he started before me, because I saw that he was going live, because I saw his live open and he was doing it, because when he first went live, and I was like, oh, Terry's live. Terry's always happy, man. He takes some frickin' happy pills. He must be getting medical marijuana and a bunch of speed, because he's always going and he's always happy and all upbeat. And I mean that with due respect. I'm sitting there going like, shit, I'm tired as crap and stuff. And it's like, how the hell is Terry all happy and shit, man, and smiling? And he's listening to some guy talk about Bigfoot flew a spaceship here, landed on top of the mountain and created a garden and was sheep farming. And he's still upbeat and happy, where I would be like just looking around, pounding my head on a rock, thinking, where did this guy come from? So Terry's awesome, people. And that would be a cool show if you could find a guy that knew there was a Bigfoot that came on a spaceship, got up on top of a mountain, started farming and had a garden and had some sheep up there. That would be actually kind of cool. All right, truly appreciate all the work you guys do in these videos. Have a great. This is not really a video. This is just doing something live. He works the crowd. Good night, Wayne and Trevor. Really appreciate you guys. Hey, appreciate everybody doing this. So as we are fading out here and getting ready to kind of like jump out of here, I really enjoy doing this stuff. It's not about an egocentric thing or anything like that. I actually like doing it because it's kind of fun, and you got to bust, and it's got to keep your mental faculties together, running through this, keeping track of what people are saying, the side conversations, keep yourself where your conversations, and it is confusing. It's hard. I can't imagine someone that can't multitask trying to do this, but it is a lot of fun keeping up with everything and doing everything, and it kind of puts a little spark bouncing through it. Plus, doing this sometimes makes me go back and think and want to look at certain things. We were looking at, and not we, but I was thinking about doing an Iron Door Mine episode for Chasing Legends Monday. I'm not so sure now, because one of the things was I wanted to do something comparatively with the Lost Dutchman story, another story I heard about it in the Superstitions,
and the one in the Catalinas, and I wanted to kind of put that together, and I was really kind of delving in deep on it. And then I just know there's so many people think they found it or this, that, and I was like, I don't know if I want to tell the story the way I did now anymore. So there we go. So people are jumping in, jumping out, and enjoyed the show. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'd bow, but, that seems really stupid and pretentious. I'm not sure if I have the right address. Okay, it's legendofthesuperstitionmountains.com, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, legendofthesuperstitionmountains.com. You go to that website, and then you can just put it in. If you're on Facebook and you type Legend of the Superstition Mountains, you'll go to our site there, and you can message it. If you go to Dutch Hunter Rendezvous, you can just message it there. So, this is much better than politics. Yes, I delved into politics, and maybe someday we'll have one of those open podcasts where we jump into the into that kind of stuff, and my transgressions of political, trying to deal with those people. And I met a lot of people, and there are really nice, good people that do really bad things, and I don't even know how to sum that up in any way, but it's rough doing that stuff. Doing a chasing on Center's Gold. We've talked about it. I've looked at it. I wanted to do Center's Gold kind of like, and it's obviously the difficult one, is do something more like the Legends stuff up on the main mountain doing Center's Gold, which I thought would be even better, is get up there, spend a day or so, and then kind of film and talk about some of the specifics. So maybe we'll do that as a precursor, because that's a long way up, and that's a lot of walking. Kim, you up for it? No? You going to carry the dog? I don't know. Maybe that's it. Me, you, and Kim are going up on the main mountain. Yeah, we ain't making it. Anyways, good to see everybody. Everybody hang in there wherever you're at with the heat and everything else. I'm going to sign off out of here. I don't even know what we're eating today, do you? No, I don't think we have a clue, and I don't smell anything cooking.
Well, I will tell you this. Sarah
getting new knees.
was very adamant that we should eat salad for dinner.
Okay. You're getting new knees, Kim. Get like little wheels, like little balls, like those casters they have on like office chairs. Get those so you could swing your whole body around the other way. And wouldn't that be cool, Trevor? Trevor's laughing. I'm serious. There's got to be some technology they can put crap in that makes the less friction, but makes it so much easier. And you could be, that'd be cool. Anyways, all right, Kim, stay in touch and let us know. I didn't know that that was all happening and everything else. So you need to touch base once in a while, because I don't hear from you, and you don't come to the meetings. Well, we're not having meetings this summer. Anyways, hope you and Chris are doing well. I know Mike's doing well. Hope everybody else is doing well. I'm going to get out of here because I'm done with it. It's time to have a cigarette and then see what's going to be up for dinner. Why isn't anyone looking for the money that the Dutchman got from selling his gold? Because he gave it to Julia and those people, and I don't think he hid it. They dug up his property. I will finish on this. They dug up his property everywhere around it. They know where his house was. There was a couple people that bought the Star Ranch later actually bought his property and ended up owning it well and farming it, and they talked about the old ruins of his place still standing, partially standing there. But people came in through there, and once the word got out over to the next 10, 20 years, people went out there and were digging all over the place, that property. Plus, they were farming it, so if there was something buried out there, whatever. But people looked for it. People looked to see if he had more gold or anything out there. All right, so I will see everybody. Hope that answered everything. Thanks, Lyle, or Lloyd Evans. Lloyd. All right, thank you, everybody. Everybody have a great rest of the weekend. Hope it's cool where you're at. Hope you get a little touch of rain, because we could use it here. And until the next time, thank you very much. Take care. We wish you well. And that's it. We're going to sum up Legends Live, but I forgot to put my hand on the mouse, so I got all that out, and then I didn't even know where I was going to stop it. And now I'm completely there. It is in stream. See? I'm so tired of not being able to finish this properly. But now we're going to do it the right way. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate it so much. And until the next time, this is Wayne Tuttle, Legends Live. We're signing off.